Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Psychanooga.
I'm your co-host, Bethany Cawthorn.
I'm your other co-host, James Grant.
So today is a sad day, but a happy day.
It's a terrible day. It's a no-good day.
It's a no-good day.
I'm very upset.
Yeah, James is inconsolable, actually. He's like rolling down on the floor, crying. He has been for the last 20 minutes, guys. We've been trying to start this episode for a long time.
Audio listeners, love you to death. I'm on the floor right now.
Yeah. No, but in all seriousness, James is sitting up. Mm-hmm. He is not crying at the moment. He is not crying at the moment. Mm-hmm. But we will see later on.
Yeah. Bethany's leaving. We haven't said it yet. Bethany is graduating in December.
Yes.
And will not be returning next semester.
Well, yeah, because I'm graduating.
Yeah. 2 new students will take her place.
Yes.
Yeah,
but you just revealed to them that you're not doing it.
Well, no, two new students will take your place.
Right,
I will still be here.
Yeah, but you'll be overviewing. They will be doing the heavy lifting.
Right.
Yeah, so you'll be more like
Hopefully I'll be retired, sitting on a beach with a coconut, and they'll be doing everything.
Right. You'll be more like a helpful guide, like Yoda, standing in the background, saying unhelpful wisdom.
I can give helpful wisdom.
And I'm sure you will.
Pay attention to the timestamp.
Yeah.
Schedule your interviews as soon as possible. Mm-hmm. Who do we interview today?
Dr. Hardin with the School Psychology Graduate Program at UTC. Mm-hmm. So Dr. Hardin has been working here for it's about 4 years, and she's been a school psychologist for 18. And so since I am wanting to become a school psychologist, I plan on going to graduate school to pursue it, or to learn it and pursue it. We figured that it would be relevant to have it as my last episode. So today we did talk to Dr. Hardin and got her input on exactly what school psychology is and like a little bit about why it's important. And then her experience with it and the graduate program here at UTC as well. Thank you, Dr. Hardin, for meeting with us today. So we are going to be talking about school psychology today, since this is my last episode for the podcast, and school psychology is what I want to do with my life. So we'll be hearing from Dr. Hardin, who just maybe go ahead and tell us, what your title is and what you do at UTC and all that.
Okay. So my name's Dr. Amanda Hardin, and I am the program director for the school psychology program here at UTC. We are a graduate school program only. We don't have any undergrad courses. Not only am I the program director, but I am one of the 3 core faculty members. So I also teach courses within the program as well.
So what all do you teach?
So currently I teach, my main one that I do is I do internship. That's the whole last year of our program. That's all you're taking. So I do internship. And then in the fall, I also do foundations in mental health. I have a lot stronger background and focus on the counseling aspects that school psychologists do. It's one of my favorite parts of the job because I just like building the more intense and closer relationships with students. So I teach that, and then I teach some of the assessment classes as well in the spring. And super excited this year. First time we're offering it is we are going to be learning, got a grant and bought iPads. And so we will be learning iPad administrations of IQ test. Ooh. So which we have never had before, which is kind of everything. I feel like COVID expedited a lot of things, including making things digital, including assessments. So now we're going to have iPads as well to learn. So I will be doing that because I have actually utilized those in practice. So we'll be teaching those in the spring.
How long did you work as a school psychologist?
So I have been a school psychologist, since 2006. So I guess this is year 18. So, and I still practice. UTC is really nice, and they put a focus on us keeping up to date with current practices. So I actually get 1 day a week with no university responsibilities to still practice. So I do still practice 1 day a week and doing that. And I love it because I knew before switching over to academia that the one thing I would miss is the students.
So why did you decide to switch over to academia?
So I had been doing both, like part-time.
Yeah.
And so I decided to make the full choice because I had gotten to the point I felt professionally where particularly I stayed on as long as I did. I would have left sooner, but I had one student who, like, I feel like if there was ever one student I worked with, like, defined like everything that I felt and made the biggest impact on, like, life changing, occurred with this high school student.
Oh, wow.
And so I got her through graduation, and then I'm like, you know what, this is like my time, I think, to move on. I kind of felt then that working one-on-one with students, I probably wouldn't go further than that. And I felt like at that point I could probably make more of an impact with training new school psychs to have then reach out to, then they could teach and work with all these other students. I kind of felt like that's where I could make a bigger impact at that point now after doing it for so long. So it was like a nice smooth transition. Or as I told her, I was like, well, if you're not going to be here, neither am I. I was like, I'm out. She goes, really? I go, well, yeah, that and for other reasons. But if you need that, yes, that is exactly why. So.
I love that. That's such a sweet little story. So what would you say, actually, like, I want to backtrack a little bit and, like, have you kind of explain to our listeners, like, what exactly school psychology is, because I know that there's a lot of misconceptions.
There is. Even people within my own family don't know what I do and will call me the wrong thing. We often get confused as school counselors, which we are not. So school psychologist, the main difference between them versus a school counselor is school counselors work with regular education students. School psychologists only work with special ed students. The main function of our jobs is to provide the testing and assessments to determine if students are eligible for special education services. So that's what we're going to do majority of the time, is doing where we're going to do IQ testing, academic testing, autism, ADHD, social emotional, adaptive. We do the testing, we write up our reports, we share our answers, we give recommendations. And that's a bulk of it. And then the other part of our job is for students who are already in special education. Sometimes we provide additional services. We will be on their IEPs or individualized education plans for possibly doing like counseling services. Sometimes it's like a lunch bunch group where you're working on something. Or like for my student who I worked with, it was one-on-one. We met every week, working on different aspects. And so that's the other part. The nice thing is that there really is the flexibility with the position, that if there's like a certain area of interest you have or a certain population you like working with and you want to do something specific, like a group that does this, you usually have the flexibility to do that as long as you keep up with your testing, because that's mandated like by state and like there's federal guidelines and federal funding. As long as you're up with that, then most of them will be like, oh, you want to provide extra students to help? Go right ahead. No one's like, oh no, sorry, we don't want your help. Mm-hmm. So there really is that flexibility to make your position and job what you want it to be. So.
Okay. So what would you say is like probably your favorite part of school psychology?
Well, I guess two things. Number one is I love the fact that no day is ever going to be the same. Like I could not do some like go in, repeat, do the same thing over and over. I would go crazy. So you never know what your day is going to look like. Even if you think you have it scheduled, you may get a call and your whole day has changed. So I love that aspect. The second thing is that I do not know many jobs where you can go in and work with a child and literally get to see the impact that you have on their lives. I have tested students when they were in elementary school and were like in 4th grade and they were in tears and crying and rolling on the floor to graduating high school with honors. Mm-hmm. So, and it's because we did the testing to get them the services they need. We helped them get that. And so not only their success, but then the impact you can have on families. A lot of times, like some of these parents, they just want to be heard. You know, this is their child, for some it's their only child, and they don't know what to do, and that you're able to do this and provide them with answers to let them know. Sometimes it's like, well, thank you, just that I'm not crazy. Like, this is doing this, and you get them the things the gratitude and the ability to build those relationships. It's fantastic because you're with them. It's not just like an outpatient clinic where you test them and then it's like, have a nice life.
Yeah.
You get them qualified and you still see them because every 3 years, if nothing else, you have to review their paperwork. It's required. So you're always seeing them. And so it's much more of you have the ability to do testing and counseling, but also that ability to grow those relationships as well. That's something that I have not found anywhere else.
How did you get into school psychology to begin with?
By complete accident. I actually didn't even, I actually went and picked my undergrad schools and was a journalism major. I was going to be magazine journalism. My goal was to work for People magazine. And so I only applied to journalism schools. And then I took a psychology class as an elective because it was the only thing available that fit into my schedule. And it was like, mind blown. And so I just kept taking psychs as electives. And where I was at, I did my undergrad at the University of Missouri. You actually have to, you don't get to apply to the journalism school until after your sophomore year. And and it's intense. And I was like, is that really what I want to do? So I switched. And I was fascinated with the brain, so I took all the classes on the brain, and then graduated with a bachelor's degree in psychology and was like, oh, well, what am I going to do now? Not a whole lot of options with just the bachelor's in psychology. So I actually worked for a whole semester. I was at Bank of America as a teller. Okay. Because I didn't want to work for DCS. That was the number one job for people with a bachelor's in psych, nothing else. I was like, well, I don't want to do that. That just seems sad. So I worked at a bank, which wasn't much happier, but it was. And then literally, I knew I liked working with kids. I had always worked throughout undergrad as babysitter. I worked at camps during the summer. So I loved working with kids, so I knew that. And then I had to find a program that took spring applicants because I was like, I am not staying at the bank for another semester. So what am I going to go? And so I stumbled upon school psychology program and they took spring applicants. I didn't even know what school psychology was, not going to lie. And just applied. I'm like, okay, it's working with kids and it's psychology. Fantastic. Luckily, I really enjoyed it. Otherwise, we would not be sitting here today. Right. But that is literally how I found out because no one talked about school psychology. I had never heard about it my entire graduate or undergrad. Never. I didn't even know it existed until I stumbled upon it. And I will say, unfortunately, that's still often the case is that a lot of people just randomly, for our program it used to be, you find it because you go look for the counselor ed program. Because everyone knows the school counselor, and then we're in the same school of professional studies, and then they go, oh, what's this? School psychology. Oh, well, maybe I'll do this. That really one of my initiatives since I started here at UTC is that number one, you were going to know about school psychology if you were a psych major here. And number two, you were going to know we had a program for it here because no one knew that as well. Even when I first started going, the first time I went to speak in Dr. Walker's class, she goes, I didn't even know we had this program here. And I'm like, if you don't know, how are the students going to know? So that has been my mission from day one is awareness of the field and the program, if nowhere else. Chattanooga and UTC will know what school psychology is and that we have a program here. So
I love that. How long have you been working here?
So this is my third year.
Okay.
Third year.
And so I'm thinking Dr. Walker is officially, I think this is her
third semester.
Third semester? Yeah, that makes sense.
I was in the first semester she taught psych. I think I remember her being like, I didn't even know that. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. So let's talk about SBSA since that's part of the program type of extended. Yeah.
So that was one of the other missions I had when I came into the program was bringing back the School Psych Student Association. Okay. So it had existed in the past, and then I feel like it kind of was starting to die, and then when COVID hit, it just ceased. So last year was our first year we took all the steps to get it reinstated because it had lost status as a student organization. So we did everything, updated bylaws, did everything, and so we got it reinstated last year because school psych doesn't have an honor society. There's not a school psych specific one where some other programs even for grad school have them. So really trying to create that atmosphere of the relationships outside of the classroom as much as in. And so that was one of our steps of focus to kind of work on doing that, as well as adding in additional social events outside of classrooms to try to make it more of a community and close-knit setting. Because one of my other big focus with running this program is just how I operate, because it's what I would want if I was a student, is it's very student focused. Like, we have an open door policy. Like, we respond to emails immediately. Well, I respond to emails immediately. Everyone else, I do not hold them to my standards. That is like, if there is where I have issues establishing boundaries on that work balance relationship, is that all my emails go to my phone. But it's just because I have myself ADHD, and I know if I don't respond right away, I'm going to forget. So with doing that. So really being student focused and trying to make it almost like a community family atmosphere. So we have the students, we have the outside social events, we have School Psych Student Association. We've established a mentorship program for when first years come in, they get paired with the second year. We even get you gift cards to Starbucks so y'all can go have coffee. So trying to really create that more of an atmosphere than just a classroom setting.
Yeah. Since we talked a little bit about the graduate program, let's talk more about like what the graduate program like entails exactly.
So it is a 3-year program. So your first year, it is just straight up classes. It is basically laying the foundation, and I tell the students, I go, if you can make it through the first year, you will be smooth sailing. And actually, my first year students tell me, as long as you make it through the first semester, you're really good. Just because you do have more courses that first year. You're taking 4 courses each semester. Where when you get to second year, you only take 3 courses each semester. And then you start practicum. So your second year, you have 2 traditional classes in the fall and spring, and then your third one is practicum. So in the fall, you do practicum and assessment, where you actually, on practicum, you're going into, most of ours do it with Hamilton County Schools. We have a partnership with them, and you're doing testing in the schools with actual students. You have a site-based supervisor there that chaperones you with school psych, and going then, and it's 100 hours that you do. And so in the fall, it's assessments, and in the spring, it's on intervention. So you get those experience. So that's second year. And then third year, it is internship. So it is, school psychologists have probably the longest and most intensive mini programs. It is a 1,200 clock hour internship. So it is full time. But that being said, all of our interns since I have been here, we have made sure 100% paid internships. So you're not working for free. I have interns making anywhere from $30,000 to $65,000 for their internship here. So, and a 100% higher rate after graduation. So, and that's really your only class experience. We still do like Zooms when you're on internship, because internship you can do anywhere. Practicum has to be close because there's still an in-person class component. But we have interns in Georgia, South Carolina. We had them last year in Ohio, Minnesota, Oregon, Florida. So had ones in California 2 years ago. So you can pretty much go wherever you want. And if you don't have, any ties to the area responsibilities, it's a great time if you want to get paid to go live somewhere for a year. You can literally find a paid internship in every single state.
Wow, that's amazing.
So,
yeah.
You mentioned you don't have any undergrad classes, but you're very conscientious about raising awareness for it. Do you have any plans for undergrad courses, or are you happy with it just being in the master's program? So
I am actually looking forward to, I'm hoping to try to, my idea is I'd love to do an undergrad class if I can try to, this is like my, down the road, maybe like 2 or 3 years, but doing a class, psychology in the schools. And making it like an elective course within the psychology. I got to get the psychology program on board. And so, so that's where I've seen where ones who did have undergrads, they have that buy-in from the psych department and can kind of get in. So I'd love for us to get just like a psychology in the schools as an elective course that perhaps ones who are focusing on like children and working with children or adolescents, even if it's not in the schools, they have they have knowledge of what's offered there. So even in private practice or something, they know the services, because that's another big issue is there's a big breakdown between like the clinical world and the school world, and things don't always get communicated well between the two. So I think just providing them that general information would be beneficial even if you're not in the schools.
So I don't think there's anything other than like developmental courses right now.
No.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
So it's on my
Okay.
it's on my radar. I would love to get that in place here.
There you go.
Okay. Do you have, like, because I know you mentioned that most of the students you get are either psych or education like, majors. Do you have anything like that in mind for, like, education people?
I think I would probably try to open that psych in the schools to open up to both.
Oh, okay,
I think both could take it.
Yeah. That would make sense. I mean,
So that they could get that information as well. Because I think like teachers would like to know what the role of the school psych is to educate them, and that what's offered so that they come in knowing things. So I think if we offered it as like an elective course for both programs, I think it would be extremely beneficial.
yeah.
So
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Thank you. I know I primarily took charge of that interview. So I'm I want to know like what your thoughts were on it, James.
I really liked it. I liked her care for the program, how much she wants to raise awareness for it. I also just liked hearing her story. It's kind of nice hearing stories where things just kind of work out.
Yeah.
It's like maybe everything will be okay.
Right. Yeah. Dr. Hardin has a very interesting story with, coming from, like, not originally knowing exactly what she wanted to do, and then, or she thought she did, and then it changed, and then she didn't know, and then, just kind of fell into school psych and ended up loving it, which I think is just really cool. It could be pretty inspiring to people who, might be later in their college career and are like, oh crap, is this actually what I want to be doing? Well, I think in a way that's like a proof that you cannot have all the answers and still turn out happy and satisfied and all that. So I think that's really cool. It's really unique. But what would you say was like, I don't know, the thing that stood out to you the most about it?
Just her energy and passion. You can tell she really loves it.
Yeah. So maybe beyond school psychology.
Well, Bethany, what's been your favorite memory of doing the podcast? Favorite moments?
Favorite moments? There's been so many. I've loved every time that we interview someone, we learn something new, or I learn something new. I always do. Even going into this last one, with Dr. Hardin, knowing that like I already knew so much about school psychology and the program and everything, just learning more about her too as a person, I think is just really cool. But yeah, I've just learned something new each time, from study habits to stress coping mechanisms to just different classes that are offered. Like, heck, I mean, this podcast is where I learned about drugs and behavior, which is a class that I'm taking now.
Which you're taking and I'm TAing it.
Yes, which we both learned from this podcast because we interviewed Dr. Arnold about it and about her research, and just learning a lot about even addiction from her in that episode. And then other episodes like with Dr. O'Leary, learning about I.O., but then also his history and background, coming from a business degree, but then becoming the psychology department head here, and then even back to our first ever episode with Dr. Walker and getting to talk to her about all the resources that are out there for students that not everyone knows about, but maybe should know about. I think it's just each episode has, in a way, built off the last. They're all individual, they're all unique, but they all grow on each other, I think. There's definitely been a lot of growth between how we run the show now versus how we did our first show. So it's just, there's been a lot of growing and learning, and I have enjoyed it. But yeah.
No, I'm in contemporary psychotherapies right now, which we got from Dr. Huber's
Yeah, we
interview,
did.
But 2 of my classes right now I'm in, are from the interviews. But no, I still remember our first interview. You were like, what's your favorite drink?
Yeah.
It's like, no, that's too basic. What's your favorite Arctic animal? It's like penguins or polar bears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now, like, I haven't even seen you with the monster, like, all semester.
I know, right? I've reformed. I've grown so much. I gave
Yeah.
up my energy drinks.
I've not given up coffee.
Coffee's okay.
Coffee it's a little better for you than Monsters.
Much better than Monster, yeah.
Yeah. But what would you say is your favorite beverage now?
Dr. Pepper.
Dr. Pepper. Okay. Why is Dr. Pepper?
I'm moderate with it, but
Yeah. No, I mean, Dr. is way better than Monsters. That's
Right.
for sure.
I don't know. I've gone back and forth with it. In high school, I really liked it. I didn't drink it for a while, and now it's sort of back. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Tastes like childhood.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They should contact me and make that their new slogan.
Dr. Pepper tastes like childhood.
Yeah. But no, I'm thinking through my favorite memories. Our first interview together was Dr. Arnold, wasn't it?
No, what was our second one? Because episode 3 was Dr. Arnold. And
We
I
had
did
this-
episode 1 with
you did
Dr.
that
Walker by
by yourself.
myself. But then,
We had the student-focused one. Was that it?
yes, it was. We interviewed Emma and Isaac.
Emma, Isaac, then Byron.
Right, Byron, yes.
Was Byron our first interview together?
I think it was. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, because we actually brought him in here in the Whisper Room, which was the last time we did that.
Yeah.
And then we did pretty much all the others in the library studio. And then our last with Dr. O'Leary last semester, we did in his office. And then we switched over to the full office mode.
Yeah.
So,
It's so funny how things evolve. Like, we went from using this to being like, let's go to the library. And then because Dr. O'Leary insisted that we bring the equipment to him, or not insisted, he just requested it, and we were like, yeah. Then we're like, hey, this is really easy, but let's streamline it.
yeah. And it's become easier. And yes, I think we've had to deal a little more with, like, extra sound with, like, people's ACs and cars going down the road and that kind of thing. But I think overall it's made life easier. But yeah, it's wild how things have evolved.
I kind of like the quality better. Like, in the library, it was so quiet. Like, if a chair squeaked, you heard it, and it, like, broke the sound barrier, you know?
That is true. Yeah.
But-
We always had to, like, try to listen to everything and try to capture that one little squeak or anything.
Right.
I remember making mental notes in my head and being like,
I
oh my
remember-
gosh, I'm going to have to cut that out later.
Yeah.
You know, it's strange to me now that I think, like, that this is only the second semester we've done this podcast. But, like, in my mind, I've been doing it for my entire time. Like, I think it's just because it's the most recent thing. It's like the recency effect. But I hope I said that right. But I don't know. Cognitive science, come back to me. But I guess in a way it feels like I've done this since freshman year because, you know, when I started at UTC, the first organization I joined was the Perch. And I wanted to join the Echo, but I hadn't yet. And I did finally my second semester of freshman year, but the end of my first semester, it was actually just about exactly 3 years ago. It would have been 3 years ago this week, actually, was that first Perch meeting that I went to. And I created my own little talk show that I ran all of that second semester of freshman year, which would have been spring 2022. It was called Midnight Thoughts, and I would give about 5-minute segments 5 days a week. And they would premiere at 8 p.m., and I would just talk about different topics related to mental health. So I talked about relatability, not like comparing yourself to others. I talked about trying to like live for yourself, living in the moment, focusing on like little victories, and a lot to do with like personal growth and self-help. And I think that in a way has kind of helped me. Like it gave me a good foundation, especially a foundation that helped me, I think, I've said help a lot in the last minute, but I think it kind of helped give me a baseline for how we've run this podcast, or how I've seen this podcast anyways, is that ultimately we're here to give resources to students and let people know about what the psych department has to offer. And I think that is so important, especially with how many major psych majors there are. And, you know, there's like over 800 of us, and it is so easy to just overlook your classmates, and not intentionally, but it's so easy to go to class, take notes, leave the class, and you do that twice a week, maybe 3 times, until the semester is over, and then you could easily sit beside someone for the entire semester and never get to know them. But I think one thing that I've learned since beginning this podcast is that everyone has a story. And I definitely learned that through the Echo, but I think even more so with this podcast, because we weren't just talking to students. We actually rarely did that. We were talking to professors, and we were learning about like their personal stories and their personal anecdotes. And like at the end of the day, like every professor started as a student, just like us. Just like, you know, whether they were a psych major, whether they were a business major or a communication major, they were a student going through college, having some of the same anxieties and stress that we face now. And I think it's really easy to forget that when you just get grades and, you know, you just hear them speak in front of the classroom. But I think that takes a lot of guts, and, you know, public speaking is hard. I think all that goes back to, like, yes, I've only done this now for 2 semesters, but it's felt like a lot longer. And that's, you know, a year out of my 3.5. And if you count that time that I was with the Perch my freshman year as well, then, you know, that's half of my time here. And that's very important to me. It's so ironic that one of my roommates for my freshman and sophomore year of college went to high school with James, and they were friends. And I think he still considers her a friend. But, you know, it's so funny because I remember Caroline talking to me about Trey and her friend Trey that, you know, lived with his grandma while in school, and, you know, had gone to Covenant for a little bit, and they went to high school together. And then Trey comes, and he turns out he's also a psych major, and he's also got podcasting experience. And, you know, our paths collided there. And yeah, and I think that's really cool. But Trey is James, and but I say all of that to say that I have really enjoyed my time here at UTC, but I know that it would not have been the same had I not had the people in my life the people that have come through my life. So, with James, to my boyfriend, to, the mentors that I've made, the professors that I've met, all of those connections have, in some shape or form, have shaped who I am now. So thank you, everyone who has been a part of that in some way. I am very grateful for you. This has been Bethany Cawthorn with Psychanooga.